Hi, this is John Ellsworth with ProtextSports and another Mental Edge Sports Psychology podcast. Do you put a lot of time into your sport, but when you get into the game, you make bad decisions and mental errors? Tune into this week's Sports Psychology podcast and learn 3 strategies to reduce mental errors and bad decisions in the game. Here's a question I received from a college basketball player. I recently walked on in hopes of making my college basketball team. The good news is that I made the team. The bad news is that I put in so much time and effort, yet in the game I consistently make turnovers, bad decisions, and aggravating mental mistakes. Why do I make these mistakes in the game, and what can I do about it? If you put a lot of time into your sport, train outside regular practice, and feel like you have good skills in practice, this tells me you're a highly motivated player. This is the good part. It seems, however, like whatever you do, you're not able to get it done in the game. You're committing mistakes that you would normally not do in practice. This is an obvious indication that your mental game is letting you down. If you have good skills in practice, but in games you break down mentally, this indicates you have to work to improve your mental game before you go into the game or into a high-pressure situation. But before we get to this challenge, ask yourself if you have a well-defined practice plan for the skills you wish to improve. I'm serious about this. Do you know your strengths and weaknesses? If you do, this is a great first step. So now what do? You need a personal practice plan that focuses on very specific skills and only those skills in your extra practice routine. Too many athletes will go out and practice, but they'll do it without an objective or purpose. Well, let's talk more about practice plans a little later on in this podcast. There are many reasons why athletes make more mental errors in games than practice. Let's review a few areas that may be impacting your performance in games. First, are you distracted in games? In other words, do you have a lot of external distractions, environmental distractions, that prevent you from focusing on the game? Or do you have internal distractions, thoughts, images, or beliefs that you conjure up all on your own, like thinking about what happened in the last game? This is one possibility. Your focus is simply not there and on the task at hand. Let's face it, our brains are wired to give 100% attention to one thing at a time. Multiple paths of thinking or subjects running through your mind will not give you the most reliable formula for success. Number 2, do you lose confidence when you get into a game situation? Some athletes have an unbelievable amount of confidence when it comes to their practice, but when they get into the game, it disappears. In competition, their confidence either does not show up or it's lacking, and in games it shows up as hesitation or indecision. I call this competitive self-confidence. Lack of competitive self-confidence shows up as a belief system about your confidence in your skills, or maybe even your belief about yourself as an athlete. This leads to making mental errors. Third, do you lack trust in your skills when you go from practice to the competitive arena? This is also related to confidence, but trust is a different animal. It's that you over-control. You're trying not to make mistakes. You avoid getting in the action, and this causes you tightness and lack of freedom to move. Okay, so now let's take a look at 3 strategies you can use to eliminate these mental game errors. Number 1. Reduce the pressure on yourself to perform perfectly or up to the expectations of the coach or your own personal expectations for your performance. If there's a lot of pressure for you to prove to someone you're worthy of being on the team, this is going to get you in trouble more often than not. It does you no good from a mental game perspective to pressure performance to show up. This is forcing things to happen. The skills will most likely evade you if you're not thinking about execution. If other thoughts enter your head, you'll not be able to functionally execute on the task-relevant cues required for successful execution. To reduce the pressure, establish one single performance objective in advance of the game that's focused on execution of your skill strengths. Chances are you'll make mistakes anyway because no one's perfect, but if you're focused on showing what you do well, then most likely you won't focus on the skills that you don't do well. It's a simple approach and it does work. As I said earlier, the mind can only focus and execute well on one thought at a time. If you're congesting your mind with thoughts about not making mistakes, there's a more likely chance you will indeed make those mistakes. Number 2, establish and make a commitment to yourself before a game that you're going to allow yourself to make a few mistakes in the game without getting frustrated, angry, or beating yourself up about making those mistakes. Again, you're going to make mistakes of some type in the game, so why not reduce the pressure on yourself? Number 3, if you want to get better at something, then you have to practice. It's not about the quantity of practice, but more about the quality of practice. For example, if you're having a difficult time with dribbling skills or bouncing the ball off your foot while you're dribbling down the court, it won't help you to simply dribble up and down the court for 2 hours or play in competitive pickup games. You need to set up a written practice plan with specific set of drills and time periods to practice these drills. Again, set aside a specified amount of time, maybe 60 minutes, for maybe 2 to 3 drills, and work these drills for that 60-minute period. Not only will you improve your skill, but you'll develop confidence and trust in this skill. If you'd like to learn more about how to beat making mental mistakes or errors, please visit us at www.ProtextSports.com and ask us a question, take a free mental game test, or share your story with us. You can ask us a question by filling out the Contact Us form or simply fill out the Ask Coach John form. That's all for now. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great week, perform well, and we'll see you on the next Sports Psychology Podcast.